Hey everyone, this is Bulbatrainer. Before I begin real quick, I just wanted to apologize for this video being late this week. Things have been a little crazy with school. For the past few weeks, I've been discussing how things can be more than they appear at first glance. I discussed how Giratina is more than just the Pokemon Devil, and then talked about how Dark types might be a misnomer. In that video, I hinted that I don't think Yveltal is a being of genuine malevolence, and this week I decided to defend that position. Because I think Yveltal is not only not the evil being an initial glance makes it out to be, but I think it belongs to its own balance, like Giratina, and is in fact critical to the functioning of the Pokemon universe. And yes, I am aware of the supposed Norse connections to the Aura Trio. I disagree with this being the only inspiration, and in the end, I'll explain why. And this might be confusing to you, since Yveltal is the destruction Pokemon, and it's a dark type, and its name sounds like evil, and it drains life energy. So why should there be any further discussion? It's evil, right? No. Because yet again, I want to pull you out of your dominant paradigm to consider alternatives. We as a society like to focus on moving forward. Ethics, politics, culture, technology, we want it to all improve and quote unquote get better and move forward. We see it as a constant march, even with ages. I am, at the time of recording this video, 30, and I will never be 29 again. Time is linear in that way. Structuring our lives, though, are a series of cycles whose repetition forms the basis of the order that lets us progress in the first place. Calendars and clocks usually all follow cycles of one form or another, even if we use them to judge our placement in the march forward. Father Time gives way to Baby New Year every year, but that's just the small scale. There are larger cycles as well. The so-called Great Year, which is about 26,000 solar years, is related to Earth's axial tilt, and then there's a galactic year, which takes about 230 million solar years, in which the solar system orbits the center of our galaxy. These cycles, especially to people who relied on them more, would have been noticeable. Antiquity was aware of axial precession, and if you've ever watched Hair or the 40-year-old version and heard that song Age of Aquarius, this is related, because the Great Year includes an age in each of the 12 Western zodiac signs of about 2,000 years each, and some believe that those transitions are meaningful to humanity. And I know you're bored, but trust me, I have a point. So, cycles. They're everywhere. Some extremely short, and some so long our entire history as a species is contained within a fraction of one. And some people see cycles in more than just the calendars. Why would beings only live once in a universe so ruled by repetition and cycles? That's where reincarnation comes in. Reincarnation is a belief that the soul returns to another body after death, that it has its own cycle. The Legend of Zelda is an easy way to think about it. The multiple timelines aside, when you play Breath of the Wild, you are playing as a reincarnation of the hero who had taken part in these other adventures. Ganon is a reincarnation of the all-consuming evil, and Zelda is likewise both a reincarnation and a descendant of past Zeldas. None of these characters were actually present for the previous games, but their spirits were. Avatar: The Last Airbender is another easy example, because of its source material, at displaying reincarnation, but again, it's an incomplete picture. Because of the context, I assume all beings reincarnate in the Avatar universe, but the Avatar in particular is special because their role emphasizes it. Reincarnation is such a general belief that it touches multiple religions and even some atheistic movements. Not believing in a deity doesn't mean that you don't believe in a solar consciousness. Naturally, therefore, there are hundreds of ideas about how reincarnation, how long between lives, what happens during that break period, and so on. But now, apply that idea to the universe itself. The universe expands, morphs, changes, collapses, and begins again. In strict scientific terms, it's called the Big Crunch, and even though it looks unlikely right now, what with accelerating expansion, predicting exactly how the universe ends is like predicting how the universe will end. We can make guesses, to be sure, but we are a speck in the face of this magnificence, and we've only barely begun to scratch the surface. So, a guess is all we have. One of those guesses comes from Hinduism. Now, this is a complex religion and one of, if not the oldest in the world. This is speculation, and finding possible religious inspirations in Pokemon is not meant to disparage the religion itself or any who practice it. So in Hinduism, there is a god named Shiva, and he is the god of destruction. But it's not meant to be a negative. Nothing is created without destruction. You can't just build a new house on top of an old collapsing one. You have to get rid of the first place. You can't just make a new universe where the old one is. The old one has to be destroyed. Also, destruction in the cases of deities usually also means the destruction of ignorance or evil. And that was what caught me. Because little Bulbatrainer first heard God of Destruction and was confused. And then as my own ignorance was destroyed, I learned the context, and that context gave me a new perspective. And part of that perspective had me look at Yveltal a bit differently. From when I first heard its lore, this concept of cycles was all I could think of. In the same way that Xerneas made a lot of people think about the forest spirit from Princess Mononoke. Though, to be fair, the actual forest spirit in the movie is pretty much an embodiment of what Xerneas and Yveltal together represent: life and death, creation and destruction. And just as the concepts blend together in this movie so that the forest spirit isn't good or evil, and just as the cycle is crucial to Avatar: The Last Airbender and several real-world cultures and religions, we can begin to see why these two Pokemon formed such a nice little cycle for me. And then Zygarde came along and almost messed everything up. Okay, so we have the Aura Trio, the Life Pokemon, the Destruction Pokemon, and the Order Pokemon. And if you've been paying attention, you can see how that all works nicely. Life and death, creation and destruction are a cycle, and you need order to keep them balanced. And using the example of Shiva earlier, Brahma is the creator, Shiva is the destroyer, and Vishnu is the preserver. Cycles. But Zygarde, neat looking though it may be, seems to be stretched too thin in terms of symbolism. It's formed by multiple little cells, which speaks to me of regeneration, not necessarily reincarnation. There's the little gummy worm, then a dog, then a snake, and then the big one. And people have found Norse equivalents to these, and that's fine and dandy, but may I suggest an alternative? Vishnu, the god of preservation, frequently visits Earth in the form of an avatar. And yes, that's where that word comes from. Other deities do this too, but Vishnu is the most well known. An avatar in this context is the physical form a deity takes on Earth, sometimes from birth, in order to bring justice or wisdom to humanity. Ignoring the single cell, because I'll circle back to that, we have 10% form, which is a dog. Now in Hinduism, Yama, the god of death, has 2 dogs to help him guard the underworld. This is similar in concept to Cerberus, in that death happens and the dead have to stay in their abode. It is a vital part of keeping order. You can't have the dead wandering around mixing with the living. The 50% form could represent Shesha, the cobra on which Vishnu lounges, and represents the universe at calm and in order and doing what it needs to do. And the 100% form could represent Kaliki, the coming avatar of Vishnu who, like a warrior, would beat back the evil of this age. The cells coming together to form these, well, for the most common form of Zygarde, 50%, this could be representative of the thousands of heads Shesha is sometimes said to have. The stars and planets are said to rest on these heads. That's not literal, it's symbolic of the order of the universe. So the Aura Trio legend says every 1,000 years, but let's use it symbolically. Xerneas expends its life energy to create the universe, wakes Yveltal, and goes to sleep to recoup. Like Brahma creating the universe, everything is set in motion. Gases expand, planets contract, and before you know it, you've got starships and holodecks and chicken soup. And the maintenance of this world is done by Zygarde, who, like Vishnu the Preserver, keeps an eye on things to make sure that the smaller cycles happen. On the human scale, life and death and rebirth happen, represented by Zygarde's underworld inspiration. Then at 50% it rests, making sure life progresses, and if it has to, it can go to 100% to fight back disorder and chaos, to defeat what would ruin its order. Then, at the end of the 1,000 years, or if it's symbolic, the end of the universe, Yveltal gets tired and goes to sleep. drawing the life energy or the universe itself into nothingness as it forms its cocoon. There, in the void, Zygarde will again awaken Xerneas, who will expend its regained energy to start the cycle again. And by the way, the sleeping aspect is in Hinduism too. It is sometimes said that the universe exists while Brahma is awake, and him going to sleep is what ends the universe, only for it to be reborn when he wakes up again. I said I disagree with the Norse interpretation as the only interpretation, and here's why real quick. First, while the Norse religion does contain cyclic elements, there's nothing that stands out like the cycles in Hinduism or the sleeping-waking cycle of Xerneas and Yveltal. And second, the supposed Norse inspirations don't match the aspect of the Pokemon too well. Eikthenir is the closest. It is a stag, and its horns do exude all the water of that region's rivers, therefore it can be said that this stag gives life. Yveltal is supposed to be based off of Hreisfugr, the eagle who makes the wind. That's it. Not the death winds, not destructive winds, just wind. Though his name does mean corpse swallower, which is pretty neat. And Zygarde. 10% is supposed to be Fenrir, and 50% is supposed to be Jormungandr, who are both related to destruction and Ragnarok. Zygarde's 100% form is supposed to be Hel, the goddess of Helheim, the abode of the dead who didn't attain glory, and yes, that would match with my underworld guardian part. But why is the supposed keeper of order based on two of the worst monsters in Norse myth? The actual destructive Pokemon is based on a windy eagle, and only the life Pokemon matches? I really think there was supposed to be a Pokemon Z, and that would have tidied everything up. But anyway, maybe the Aura Trio play around with their energies in Kalos a bit, and that's why it said they have their cycle every 1,000 years. But I'd say that their true cycle is much longer, as long as the Pokemon universe has existed. And so that's my 3-part theory. An origins idea for the Oro Trio being inspired by Hindu cosmology, my adamant belief that Pokemon Z was planned but cancelled since the lore is kind of non, as well as a proposed role for this trio in the Pokemon world, creating, sustaining, and destroying it to rebirth again. A vital role, every member doing its part. None of them evil. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked this video so that you can catch more the next time that I release some, which with school going on is not going to be on a regular schedule, but I am doing my damnedest. I will see you all next time. Thank you so much, and please, stay safe.